We're here today at Interspace Caverns. We're gonna go see what a mile underneath Texas looks like. So we'll be showing you a couple of different things inside. It's gonna take probably a little while to get underneath there. So as we go, we'll show you a few things. You know, they have a bunch of caverns. They have like thousands of caverns here in Texas. So we're here in Interspace Caverns in Georgetown, Texas, and we'll be showing you a lot of the different stuff they have in there. That's all we got.
Come here, man.
Basically, they were jackhammering this tunnel by the map upstairs that's between the snack bar and the ticket booth on the wall. Huge map that's a little older than this tour is. So, they chiseled using that map in the direction of a place called Wendy's room up ahead, a place where a woman named Wendy, who still works upstairs, crawled in and waited because they threw smoke bombs in this hole when they noticed this was here. They were assuming and hoping that the crevice continued forward because in Wendy's room there was a little crevice in the wall, and they were hoping they connected. So she waited for smoke to come through from those smoke bombs. And I'm not sure exactly how long it took, but a little less than an hour. Smoke came out the other side. They knew they were chiseling in the right direction, and they were able to continue jackhammering.
Step down.
This is Wendy's crawl. It's about 50 feet long and on average 18 inches from ceiling to floor. So this is also, again, the first place we send our wild cavers. They enter it from the other side. It's in a place called the Soda Straw Balcony, where the first room that the adventure tour sees. And it's our claustrophobia detector. Because if you can't get through this passage without freaking out, you are really close to the ramp up to the top, and you can run up top, get a deep breath of fresh air, deal with your anxiety attack, and get your money back. However, if you can make it through that passage without freaking out, you can handle anything else that we throw at you. And then it's a little of the science here, is it rains up top, and it takes the rainwater anywhere from 4 days up to an entire week to trickle down through the dirt and rock of our ceiling. Now this fossiliferous limestone is very porous, like a big Brita water filter. And the first thing the rainwater trickles down through is some couple inches of topsoil and some decaying plant and animal matter. It's producing carbon dioxide, or CO2. The deeper the water goes, the more pressure it's under. Water under pressure holds on to CO2 molecules, turns into carbonic acid, which is a very weak acid, and you may know it by its other name, soda water. We make our own separate supply in the snack bar by pressurizing CO2 in big tanks through water. That's carbonic acid. And then we put sugary syrup in it, and that's your soda. Basically in the shape, like this one right here, fossil of the burrow of a prehistoric clam or shrimp, but it's solid iron. And the cookie itself is flint, which started off as fossilized SpongeBob SquarePants. Prehistoric sponges whose bodies were supported by silica instead of iron. You can see the broken edge over where I am. Flint is light gray to dark gray to black in color when it's broken like this. Very hard, sharp edge. So Native Americans would use that stuff to make arrowheads and knife blades. Hunting for animals with dead sponges. And now we go this way. There are some steps carved out of the content. The reason for that, the ceiling in this room is mostly dolostone, the white chalky rock. And the dolostone acts more like a sponge than a filter. It won't let anything grow on it unless it has been completely saturated for a very long time. And so by the time formations begin to happen on totally saturated dolostone, it's kind of been microfiltered. None of the iron gets through really. So they're much more pure calcite. Oh, and here's one of our little bats. A full-grown tricolor bat. You can take pictures of the bats without flash. I even try to keep the bright spot of my flashlight off of them, even though it doesn't seem to bother them that much. But a flash will sometimes wake them up. And although they are harmless, they will occasionally land on someone and that person starts screaming like a little girl. And then everybody starts screaming and then it's a big mess until the bat flies off into the distance. But that's an eastern pipistrel or tricolor bat, one of the smallest bat species in North America. That's about as big as they get. They leave every night and they eat their body weight in mosquitoes. One of the few bugs out there small enough for them to eat. You can see what happens when calcite forms underwater. The crystals look a lot more like crystals instead of this kind of melty, drippy looking stuff. And every now and then the crystals will grow from the bottom of a rim pool like that to the top of where the water would be. And on the other side of this flowstone here, there's a slightly larger but still pretty tiny rim pool. It's empty. But you can see where the crystals have grown from the bottom to the level of where the water used to be. And that's called dogtooth spar. It looks a bit like, say, you come across a coyote's skull in the woods on a nature hike that's been exposed to the elements for a long time. It looks like the molars in a skull like that. So dogtooth spar is what that's called. And then we go through a dolostone tunnel. Watch your heads, it's a little low. And the only thing I can say about the floor is it is... And the first detour is this way. We're gonna come back out. It's a dead end for us. If we were on a wild cave tour, we would jump off to even deeper parts of the cavern from here.
Jump? Where did you say a sinkhole was? Is this a sinkhole?
Right here. All this stuff right here that looks a bit like a landslide with a little flowstone growing on top of it, that's called the deposition cone. And it's the name of the dirt that plugs up a sinkhole. So all that stuff back there is the front end of one of the sinkholes. Now plugged completely. It would have been a cathedral room that collapsed. And then water from the surface rushed in and carried a bunch of mud and dirt with it that mounted up higher and higher and higher and eventually plugged the hole. And it's been here so long that a lot of flowstone is formed on top of it. But sometimes flowstone is several feet thick, sometimes flowstone like this is just a couple, even less than an inch sometimes of calcite formed. First, when the water used to come out here, and apparently the story behind it is this one had formed first. It no longer grows, that's dry. When the sinkhole behind it first opened to the surface, they are pretty sure this fracture would have occurred. And then the water flow was split to the right and to the left. And you can see the one on the left is still wet, and the one on the right is still wet. There's a slow trickle right now, and that's when they grow, when there's a slow trickle of water. Then so these grew up to be almost as large as their older friend, and they're still growing. Over here is the cave totem pole.
That's cool.
A stalagmite, of course, but when that sinkhole was open, wind blowing across the surface could have caused little swirls of air down here that directed how the drops got deposited. Or the place was flooded and little current in the water coming in from the surface could have directed the formation. A perfect cave carrot with leaves at the top and roots and everything. All it needs is a little colorization. And then Crowder's Falls. Flowstone formed likely somewhere behind here from saturated dolostone. White is snow white. And the stuff right next to it would have come through limestone because it's got that rust color to it. A lot of iron content. And on the wild cave tours, we would crawl all the way up there, go back a couple hundred feet, and drop down into a place called the Maze, where on wild cave tours you get two tour guides, one in front, one in back. And in the maze, we let the guests explore by themselves without the tour guides. We do not tell them that no matter where they go, it always ends up in the same place. So they get to where this picture is, but one of our black and white pictures on the walls is apparently there's a camera probably right about where we're standing. And right behind that stalagmite, there's a spelunker standing, and it looks like they've got spotlights back there all over the place. It's really well lit. But when you see the picture, if you recognize it, It's a picture of Tres Amigos from probably 50-something years ago. And although a lot of the area down here was jackhammered down or up, this room, aside from the rocks piled to the side, it looks exactly the same. So it was like just like this when they discovered it. Just we, prettied it up a little bit in the middle. Didn't even have to level this path. It was fairly rusty anyway. Who knows who has touched? Oh, Temptation Stone, after saying all kinds of stuff about how nasty it is, on the adventure tour I saw a grown man touch it full hand and then lick his finger. I almost threw up when I saw that. Oh, someone upstairs who says they have perfect pitch is pretty sure this is a D note. I'm gonna have to bring a pitch pipe down here to figure that out for sure one of these days. I have one at home and I keep forgetting to bring it. Anyways, some places on the wild cave tours, there's a bunch of different plates like this sticking out of the dolostone, all with different. I thought it looked like a hammerhead shark riding a surfboard. I couldn't tell him he was wrong. Imagination is never wrong. Not always right, but never wrong. Is the mouth of the dragon. And actually, let me see that flashlight real quick. Where is that flashlight? Hold that for now. Let's see what's going on with this thing. Well, heck. Did you get it?
I ain't that worried about it.
Well, dang. Stay close.
Oh, you're good.
Anywho, deep in the mouth of this dragon, past of that book bag, is the belly of the beast. That is a place where we rest on the wild cave tours. We do not go through the mouth of the dragon to get to the belly of the beast, though. We pop out from a little passage on the right-hand side. And then back there on the left is the passage that leads us to the squid room from a totally different direction than we went. And why we call that the belly of the beast back there, we might even see them pop up since that backpack is here waiting for them to get through that passage. So if you see lights in the background, that's the wild cave tour. But we call it the belly of the beast because back there you can hear even louder than you can hear right now, I-35. Listen real close if you hear the rumble. Bacon over there. And also this raw bacon fat hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Big slice. And now things like this that are somewhere between stalactite and drapery, like this, that's called a shield that tends to form to a point, slightly rounded top, kind of like a shield shape.
Yeah.
And some more good stripy bacon in those areas. And now on the floor over here, that really dark brown, almost black stuff with a nice coating of calcite on top. It looks crumbly. That is petrified guano. Very old bat poop. Not laid down by the kinds of bats we have here today. They've only been able to get down here for 50 years. They come in through that main entrance. These were bats that came in through some of the sinkholes when they used to be open to the surface. Related to mouse-eared bats. But they were colonial bats. So they were like thousands, if not millions of them on the ceilings, all pooping in the same spot. And we're very lucky it's petrified. All of the organic components replaced by mineral salts. Calcite being considered an ionic salt. Because when it's fresh, it smells like cat pee. So if you ever go to the bridges to watch the bats leave, don't do it from under the bridges, especially because they basically, as soon as they take off, that's when they drop their feces. So they don't poop on themselves, basically. So when they take off, it's like a rain of guano constantly falling. So you would want to wear a poncho at least, and even then you wouldn't. Again, that room that goes back about 100 feet is about 40 feet wide. always filled with mud. When the cavern flooded, it was like a underground lagoon. And they did allow us to come down after hours as tour guides and splash around a bit in that freezing cold water. As cold as it was, you were obligated to do cannonballs into it, which we all did. But we're going this way. Now, this used to be just straight across. And of course, we jackhammered the top half out so that we could get to the next area that you used to have to crawl to, but not straight through, because the ceiling over here is more and more narrow until you can't fit through. The ice cream parlor, because of the ice cream. And the Pearson ice cream pen. I used to use this as an ingredient in mascara. You bat your eyelids. Great coverage. Doesn't wash off or anything. But they also used to use it as an ingredient. Iron oxide that makes the reddish brown stripes. And when everything grows together, it's called flowstone, like this. And these little spikes that seem to defy gravity and grow in all kinds of crazy directions, those are called helictites. And it's mostly hydrostatic pressure that forms those. There's still water at the base of these structures being pressed down under pressure. And if there's any fractures anywhere, the water will sometimes start to squirt out sideways. And then it starts forming crystals that look like they're defying gravity. But lots and lots. Hey!
I'm on the left.
We're gonna go left, I guess.
Who's left side?
What? All I gotta do now is make a phone call to the top.
So that concludes the little tour we had of the underground of Texas. Hope you enjoyed it. Just little clips here and there. It's like $25 a person. Takes about roughly 2 hours for the tour we took. And that's about it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.